Does life feel different before and after you've, I guess I could say, become successful?
When you have a house or like an apartment, a car, and you have money saved up for the next 1 or 2 years of your life, you just remove the anxiousness out of everything. So it's not like a feeling where you're in a fairy tale. I mean, like, you're still under stress, but you're just not anxious.
If you don't have a purpose, how are you functioning?
I want to help more people, let's say maybe get to at least 1% of what I have on my side. And the only way I can do that is if I talk about it.
A lot of people are stuck in a state where they can't escape from because 80% of their mental energy is dedicated to like, am I going to eat tomorrow? Am I going to lose my job? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When all this stuff is gone, you unlock a whole new portion of your brain that you didn't even know was there. And you can suddenly work better and faster than you've ever been able to because you have the mental energy to do so. And another thing, you probably have a lot of people watching this who are, they just started an agency pretty recently. They're wondering where things are going to go. Does life feel different before and after you've, I guess I could say, become successful? Like what feels different and how does that meet your expectations? I'm sure growing up, you knew the position you were going to be in. It wasn't like, oh, maybe if things go well. It's like, I know I'm going to do what I need to do to get in this spot. And I know at least me, I always thought that, life is just going to feel perfect and everything's going to be amazing after you get to that point that is your goal. And so something not enough people talk about is how does that actually feel? Like at what moment did you realize, shit, I'm successful. I did it, whatever it may be.
I think realistically, one of the things which is good, I know people say money doesn't make you happy, money doesn't make you X, Y, Z. But like when you have a house or like an apartment, a car, and you have money saved up for the next 1 or 2 years of your life, you just remove the anxiousness out of everything. And then like you stop being anxious about like, is this gonna work or whatever? Like, that you're safe and that your family's safe. And then you just have the fun part. But I wouldn't say that fun means that you're always happy. Fun for me is like, you have the fun part of a big problem, then you're stressed about how you're gonna fix it. You're motivated about fixing that. Then it starts working, then you're happy because it's working, but then something else breaks. So then you're again frustrated, you're fixing it, and it's an endless cycle. So it's not like a feeling where you're in a fairy tale. I mean, like, you're still under stress, but you're just not anxious. And I like maybe the biggest thing that kind of changed with time is that I'm not anxious anymore, and that I know that me and my family are gonna be okay, and like whatever happens, we're gonna be able to kind of sustain ourselves. So it's really easy to remove that fear aspect, and everything else is just a game where it never stops playing. I mean, like I was talking on like with Ran Segal, where I've taken, let's say, 30 days off at the end of this year, and like in August last year, I did not work for 30 days also. And I thought that is the end game of like, hey, I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna be good, the agency is gonna be organized, and I'm not gonna do anything. But you realize that after day 10th, you're like, what? I'm waking up, I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then I'm sleeping, and then I'm eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you start going into depression. Even though you're successful, but like if you don't have a purpose, or if you don't have something you're building, it doesn't necessarily have to be a business. Maybe somebody else wants to get a business to a point, and then they want to get really passionate about something else. But in reality, I don't think that there's always going to be a place where you just feel successful and you just chill out. At least for me, it's more about, yes, I'm successful, and right now I can do all of the things that I ever wanted to do, and I'm always going to feel that's part of me being annoyed that I can do better. And that's the thing which is going to allow you to wake up in the morning and to go to work or to do anything. Because if you lose that, then you start getting into a rut, and then life becomes a little bit more painful. At least for me, I mean, like that's how I look at it. And I know what do you think on your front?
That is honestly probably the best explanation I've ever heard from it, is just the anxiety factor. It's so true. Like, you've not had money and you've had money. What in your life really changes? You're going to be driving a nicer car. You're going to be living in a nicer house, wearing nicer clothes, all this stuff. It's nice. And when people say money doesn't buy you happiness, that's what they're talking about. That stuff does, I mean, it makes you a little happy at that point in time. Yeah. But like, that's not going to give you lasting happiness. But what people don't talk about that is actually going to give you lasting happiness is the fact that you can just wake up and feel like, if you are living paycheck to paycheck and you have a job, when you wake up, it's like, if I don't do good at work today, I could get fired. If I get fired, my family cannot be eating today. You are living in an eternal state of dread because of that, financial state that you are in. And if you can find a way to escape that and just, depending on where you live, whatever amount of money that may be, get to that point of comfortability, you are able to focus so much more on the work that you do and are able to do it better. The thing is, a lot of people are stuck in a state where they can't escape from because, 80% of their mental energy is dedicated to like, am I going to eat tomorrow? Am I going to lose my job? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When all this stuff is gone, you unlock a whole new portion of your brain that you didn't even know was there. And you can suddenly work better and faster than you've ever been able to because you have the mental energy to do so. And that, in my opinion, is happiness. That's another thing, growing up, I always think like, wow, people can just do something, build a company, and then just go like, piss off to the beach or something and not work again. That sounds fun. And to anyone who does this, I've heard the exact same thing. It is fun for a week, 2 weeks, and then after that, you're just bored. Like, a lot of people talk about early retirement. What does early retirement mean? From what I can understand from what you said, and I feel the exact same way, I don't want to stop building until I'm dead. Whatever that may be, maybe it's not a business, maybe it's not a product, maybe it's, you want to become the best mountain biker in the world. But like, if you don't have a purpose, how are you functioning? I want to take a step back, by the way, to what you mentioned about those boot camps. So I don't know if you know this, you probably know this. If you look up Webflow on Google Trends, you will notice that there is one country in which Webflow is far more popular than anywhere else in the world. What country is that?
I don't know. Tell me.
Serbia.
Okay.
Serbia is by far, like, per capita, obviously there's not very many people in Serbia, but per capita, there are more people using Webflow, at least according to Google Trends, in Serbia than anywhere else. And having lived in Serbia for so long, I still have my house there and everything. We got to catch up, by the way. But, I know if I walk into a crowd of younger people and I say, like, I work in the Webflow space, that almost all of them know what that means. It's like if you're somewhere else in the world and you say, what WordPress is. Yeah, I've heard of that. In Italy, where I'm at now, if I say Webflow to someone, they have no idea what that means. Same thing in the US, in Canada, anywhere. Whereas in Serbia, it's huge. And the amount of people that I have met, not only, you've met a lot of them because you've hired a lot of them, like, who have entirely changed their lives. And my question is, and not necessarily anything you could even answer here, but how did that happen? Like, I think that you as an individual are probably the main driving force behind that. And that has changed the lives of, hundreds of young people in Serbia, which is just amazing to see. So like, beyond the, okay, look, it's cool for anyone. I grew up in Canada, let's say, started a company in Canada, hired some people there with jobs they otherwise could have had. That's amazing. That's all well and good. But like I'm sure a lot of the people who work for you, basically they would have been in a situation where they're working, in a store making like 600-700 euros a month. And now they're able to build an actual career where they can grow and they can give their family a life that they never thought was possible. So like, how does that feel, having genuinely changed the lives of hundreds of people? Like, anything, what do you think?
I don't know, like sometimes people were telling me like, why are you doing this? Like, you have such a great business. Like, you should just, not be quiet about it, but just kind of shut up and like put your head down and like, I don't know, like don't talk about it because it's a great business. Maybe you would have more business for you only like if you don't have competition. But I don't think that there is like a higher level of purpose that I wanted, like in terms of kind of how I'm approaching everything. And that's why I also decided to join Flux and to produce videos there. Is I want to help more people, let's say maybe get to at least 1% of what I have on my side. And the only way I can do that is if I talk about it. And maybe my small, let's say, altruism movement is to fix the business mindset in Serbia, because we technically come from a communist place where people were used to getting a job and having that job for the next 50 years, retiring, and then just enjoying life that way. Not a lot of them were super happy with it or whatever, but like that was just the norm of how people approach life. And in order for anything to change in our country, if you ask me personally, I think that we need to, let's say, understand that we can control our own fate with our careers. Like, it doesn't have to be a business, but like with careers, that we have to embrace capitalism as a whole. in order to kind of have any developments and in order to have kind of like better states for us. And I always like to start with me and what can I do. And I'm always happy if I can, as you mentioned, help 100 people around me, well, like have like better lives. Then I'm happy about it, and that's where I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna try to do like any crazy things that are outside of my area, or I'm not gonna complain about the country because I like living here. I'm just gonna do things every day when I wake up which are gonna make the country better, and hopefully that's gonna allow for more people to have jobs, to have careers, and to in general maybe join Webflow or join anything else, or just kind of get inspired and start their own business based on kind of like based on the inspiration story. And I did tell my story since I was 21, something like that, 21, 22. I went on all podcasts. Even today, every month I host at least one talk somewhere in Serbia where I give my story, where I inspire people that it can happen, so that more and more success stories come out of the country, and like that we show the world that we can be good in business but also in sports, but that we can beat like things on the sports side, but we can beat them also in business, which is I think a fun thing to have on the side, and which is again the direct thing to what you said of, hey, you need to have a higher purpose. And yes, having a business, building a business is great, but at one point you need to realize, okay, why am I building this? And just knowing that, okay, we're having Flow Ninja, like technically it's for our team. I love seeing them grow. I like seeing them develop as people of companies. Like we're providing a business need where we have web ops kind of as a service, like all the website operations that we handle kind of for businesses. But for me personally, if I can tell my story to Flux, if I can teach people how to start an agency, maybe they're not going to start a Webflow agency, but they're going to start whatever agency today, they're going to be able to have better lives. And maybe there is a karma bucket somewhere in the world where I provide a lot of good that gets filled up, and then it gets spilled back kind of at our company and kind of at my life, that I can have better things happening on my side as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's such a good goal. Just from what I know about Serbia, I mean, a lot of people who are watching this who haven't grown up in, I guess, countries that are in similar situations. I mean, Serbia was communist for quite a while, and it was only, if I'm not mistaken, less than 30 years ago that changed. And the way that looks, just to give a super simple example to anyone who doesn't know that. So my neighbor in Serbia, he's an older guy, Moler, like, does walls and stuff like that. And I was talking to him one day, and he's like, this type of job I don't want to do. It was like fixing up around windows when you do them. I said, why? He goes, it's really difficult and it doesn't pay well. He's like, nobody wants to do it. Nobody can even find someone to do it. I'm like, well, Marco, why don't you just charge more for it? He's like, nobody's going to pay that. Like, but they need workers. No, but that's not the price. Like this, that might sound normal to you. I'm sure you've heard so many similar, takes. But to me, I'm just thinking, coming from a country which has been capitalist for its entire existence, it's like, no, their supply raised the demand. And I think the younger generation, like, let's say people 30 and under in Serbia, are such a unique group. I think they are some of the smartest people in the world that are capable of insane things. You can see in sports, obviously, most people who know about Serbia only know it because of sports.
Yeah.
Because they know Jokic, like there's so many people. But now I think in business, you have a generation which is honestly going to do insane things. And I think you are such a good example of that. I love how you're trying to spread that, because I think a big thing for a lot of people in Serbia and in many, many other countries is they don't see these examples. How can I do it? But when, a similar kid from Niš who has big dreams grows up and they see what you're capable of doing, even just seeing that you've done it, not even hearing how or anything like that, is, could completely change their life, because it's like, he came from where I came from, he can do it, so can I. So I think that is awesome. I love how you're doing that. And the next thing that I really want to talk about here is everyone obviously in our industry is seeing that AI is changing a lot of different things in many different ways. And seeing that and how that plays out in, I guess, a bigger level. It's one thing when you're just an individual Webflow developer with some clients, but like you guys have a ton of big clients. So I think my first question for you is, when did you start to notice AI? As in, we've all heard people talking about AI since, 15 years ago, like some sci-fi futuristic not going to happen thing. And then eventually it was like, okay, I got to start taking note of this. When did you personally start actually noticing AI?
I think that was realistically maybe I think 3 or 4 years ago when I was on a ski trip and I was like, you're on the gondola and like you're kind of scrolling your phone and there is I think the startup that afterwards failed that was building AI websites that had like a lot of Indian developers. But at that point, that was the story that this is the next big thing that you can build a website with AI in 5 minutes. And I was like, just enjoying my vacation. And then I see this and I'm getting anxious. It's like, did everything that I just built for the last, 3 or 4 years, is everything just going to disappear because this company is promising to do everything that we want to just with AI? And that's kind of how I first learned maybe a little bit more deeply about like that AI is coming. And then with time, I actually started realizing that the biggest problem today is what we have is there's a lot of people that can say things. You cannot vouch for anything that they're saying. And that everybody's like looking for the best click-through rate and like the best watch time for videos. So then with time, I realized, yes, AI is going to change everything, but it's not going to change it in a way where of kind of everything that people are saying on YouTube videos and like Instagram and whatever. Because everybody's just trying to get the views and everybody's maybe trying to sell you a course on the back end. That things are going to change tomorrow and you should adapt. And like that sometimes gets me anxious versus in reality, yes, things are going to change drastically, but you're going to have time pass by before they get actually implemented. And AI cannot do everything. And like people who have been doing real good work for big companies know that doing the work is just part of it. Like you have a lot of things like in terms of management, relations, and I don't know, like there's a gazillion of things that happen inside of an agency with a customer that need to be met, which AI is not going to do. And even with that, I have things in my life which I can do on my own, which I pay people to do, even though I know that it's pretty easy. So